All right. Hey, good morning. My name is Jared. I host a daily live podcast where we discuss news and politics. And as you may know, every show we start a little bit of a ditty. Morning, Dubs. So if you saw my video this morning, you know I'm already kind of pissed. So for many of you that don't know, I live in Indianapolis, Indiana, on the east side of the city, in the beautiful city of Lawrence. And last night, my wife shares with me, we basically got an email from the city of Lawrence that there's a water boil advisory for the city of Lawrence due to a water main break. Okay. So understand, immediately I'm thinking, well, who is this going to impact? And I look on the notification from the city of Lawrence and it says children and the elderly. And immediately I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Kids aren't getting on the City of Lawrence website. The elderly aren't getting on the internet. Long story short, we're supposed to boil the water for 5 minutes before we drink it. And I know there's a lot of people that they don't lead with empathy, so they're not going to be empathetic to this situation. They're going to be like, big deal, boil your water. Bro, this don't even affect me. Good to go? First of all, I bought water. So I had to go out and buy water. A lot of people out there, you're going to hear stories of people price gouging. Okay. I bought a 24 pack of Meyer brand water, $4. Like, whatever, bro. Okay. We'll use it to brush teeth, make coffee. I think they said it'll go till Tuesday. But I wanted to see, other than the City of Lawrence fucking website, right? Did anyone bother to write or talk about this at all? And I looked on the main pages of our Indiana and our Indianapolis and didn't see a link to this anywhere. And when I searched for it on the internet, I find uh the Indy Star, so the big publication here in Indianapolis, has a story up with a link to the City of Lawrence website. I'm assuming that hits a much wider audience, the Indy Star does. And it's hidden behind a paywall. So the only way you would have access to know that there is a water main break, let's say you just moved to Lawrence, right? Aren't registered with the city of Lawrence, you wouldn't know. Some young mom doesn't know right now that she was supposed to boil the water she gives to her infant child this morning when she goes to feed it. And that child's going to get sick and die. All in the name of profit, all in the name of capitalism. And this example exactly right there. Why is that article hidden behind a paywall? Capitalism is the fucking answer to that question. And it's not a good answer to that question. In the name of profit, we hide an important notice, a public notice, that's only being shared primarily on the City of Lawrence website. And again, I don't have kids. This doesn't affect me. And so there's a lot of people that have given me grief over being a socialist, saying that'd never work. capitalism's the only fucking way, and I'd say at the expense of what? How many people's lives before you realize that kissing, being a fucking bootlicker, isn't the way? Okay. Um, went to a protest on Friday. There are protests all over the world. Here's a little video somebody shot in Serbia of an anti-President Vučić protests. And just to see the sheer volume of people, yeah, we need to be conscious of how much more willing people from foreign countries are that come from much harsher climates than we do, that are much less comfortable than we are, will protest. Um, kind of along this line, there have been major storms all over the country. Hold on, I gotta see. There were horrible storms all over the country. Yeah. Um, I want to make sure that my audience is aware of Ryan Hall. Um, I found because I've been making content on YouTube, and as a result, I spend a little time on YouTube. Um, I want to make sure that I point you to someone I consider a subject matter expert when it comes to dangerous weather, that I trust, that I think you can trust. They do a live show when there's crazy weather out, and I think, of course, if you can pick anything up from me, huh? Bum. Why, Malcolm? That's just how you approach other people. I always know how relationships start. Like you'd never say that to my face. Not in a million fucking years. Yeah, just so you know. Make sure we share the calendar so that you have that. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, along the same lines of me saying, hey, um, there's a water boil advisory here in the city of Lawrence on the east side of Indianapolis, Indiana, and I don't see a lot of places saying that. Same thing with how are you supposed to handle extreme weather now with Donald Trump tearing down the NOAA, for example? And I think Ryan Hall is a good answer as someone that will go live. Hey, Cece, got another sneeze coming. I can feel it. Sorry, it's gonna be one of them days. Again, here's a link to rallies. Everybody's. One of the things Americans always do is go out of their way to compare. And I just want to point out, look at the concentration of people in this Hungarian protest against Viktor Orban. Um, Look at the concentration of people protesting in Serbia. A lot of people hit me up like Jared, oh my God, Donald Trump. Um, invoked the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. Obviously, scary time to be alive. Um, but I want to point out, like, a judge struck that down right away. I want to make sure that you know that Donald Trump promised to deport 14 million people. And I want you also to know that he has deported less people than Barack Obama did thus far. So again, when we talk about being an ineffective leader, I would argue promising to deport 14 million Americans, 14 million people, illegal immigrants. There are no illegal immigrants on stolen land. I'd argue when you aren't even matching the opponent party's own deportation numbers. I'd say the claim was unnecessary, right? Claim wasn't necessary because you ain't gonna make that, no way, and it just makes you look real bad, right? So I saw something like he had actually deported like 40 people, and all 40 of those people that he deported to Guantanamo Bay got returned to the United States. So yes, with a great deal of empathy, those people's lives are forever negatively impacted by Donald Trump and his decision to deport them and have them held at Guantanamo Bay. But that all 40 of those people are back on U.S. soil. And a judge halted Donald Trump's ability to use an 18th century wartime act to deport people. Big, I'm not happy with Chuck Schumer. A lot of people are going to try to argue that shutting the government down and renegotiating that resolution is worse than just signing the resolution and having to use legal assets to fight all of the things in the resolution that the Republicans put out. Is the thing that people don't understand about how the government works or how politics work is that uh, a resolution, a executive order, does not supersede written law. So I just want to make sure my audience is aware. Okay. They keep saying that even his cabinets are acting on motions. Okay. Mm, mm, mm. Hot off the press 29 minutes ago. 50% of Moscow's fuel supply at risk after Ukrainian drone strike on its largest oil refinery. So there you go. That's a big piece of news. Probably not gonna be said on the news as a significant strike on Russia. Ukrainian drones are blowing up Russian drone factories. This is great. That's great. One thing you can't, one thing that's undefeated is human ingenuity and like what we'll do. politics, maybe? Mm-mm. Just kind of seeing where we usually are. World news? No, I think I already have that up. Anyway, politics. There it is. Okay. Change that to news. All right. Just want to make sure I had all my tabs open. So you know how the U.S. is going through a crisis regarding the price of eggs. Um, the U.S. is having to turn to these countries that it's treated like shit and say, hey, we need to buy eggs from you. So how about the US going to Denmark? By the way, Denmark is who controls Greenland. So imagine threatening to invade Greenland and then have to go to them and say like, "Hey, Denmark, we really need help. The cost of eggs is too high." And of course got told, "Fuck off." And then the U.S. went to Finland, and again, this administration for eggs. Um, Finland turned down the U.S. request for eggs. Hey, this is threatening to invade them, then ask them for help. Yeah. So, I mean, books are gonna be written about what not to fucking do. And with this administration, with the time that it has left, um, it's certainly pretty evident to me what not to fucking do. And I want to make sure, as a syndicalist socialist, that I'm encouraging you to reach out to your union, consider joining a union. If you're already in a union and you feel how I feel about stuff, where I want equality for all, I want the removal of this two-tier justice system. I want everybody to have universal health care, education, income, and housing. I want to see people start their own business. If that's how you feel, you need to not only consider joining a union, but you need to run for a leadership position within said union. That's how you are going to get into politics. Playing what? But that's how you're going to get into politics is by joining a union, becoming a leader within a union, fighting for people to get better wages and benefits. Okay. Asking what? No, this is a podcast. This is a daily live podcast where we discuss news and politics. We called it Justice's Waiting Room. Many of the people that listen to this show, we're also on YouTube, typically also on TikTok. We use Clapper as a backup when we either don't have access or get kicked off of TikTok. I think, yeah, I got to kicked off of TikTok last for a week because there's a percentage of veterans that are homophobic. And when I was talking about going to a veterans march, a veterans protest, and seeing a bunch of my LGBTQIA plus friends and me saying, I don't know why everyone is surprised that the majority, I would argue the majority of the people that were at that Veterans March were queer. And I saw a lot of those same people that were at that Veterans protest at Pride. And it makes me intensely fucking proud to have served to protest, to march right next to those people who you know what I thought about on the way to the protest? If you're living in the United States right now and you're gay, black, have cancer, and are a veteran, like you're being fucking targeted by the United States. They're trying to off you. And obviously you can peel back on that and every layer of that. And individually, yeah, there's an all out attack on veterans. Look how Donald Trump feels about people of color, and how this administration treats people of color. Understand my position on this is that we are all fucking cousins. If you're not married to it, it's not your brother or sister, your parents or grandparents. They're your fucking cousins. So when you dislike someone because of their skin color, that's just like your cousin with a better tan. Like, what the fuck are we talking about? You know what I mean? But yeah, we need bigger protests. It's not just about veterans. It's not just about the women's march. It's just not about the march for science. Like people got to understand the people that are under attack by this administration are largely people that can't really defend themselves. Like, why would you do this shit? Why would you halt the funding for affordable housing for extending the life of aging buildings? And the there's people out there gonna say, again, CC, I actually think that's that's the trigger point for the 14th Amendment, Article 3, CC, is that um, as soon as Donald Trump cedes power to JD Vance, that's when you claim that Donald Trump is actually ineligible for office. And as a result, all the things come out from Executive Order 13848. Because remember, we still are waiting on those reports. And I refuse to believe there's some way to get rid of all of that information. Remember, every state did their own investigation into this election, the 2024 US election. Every state did their own investigation. Multiple agencies investigated every election. There has been no all clear given. Okay. And again, Donald Trump has harassed all these agencies so much that I can't even listen to somebody say, "Oh, all that information got buried. It'll never come out." Have you paid attention at all to how Donald Trump has treated the FBI, the CIA, trying to fire a whole bunch of people and shit and illegally, and they all got fucking reinstated. And I just wanted to say, like, you can draw ire, right? You can make someone pissed off at you enough to fucking do something legally. And I think, in terms of Executive Order 13848, Donald Trump has pushed those agencies to into a corner. And I hate to say it's just funny and true and timely, but nobody backs Baby into a corner when Baby is the fucking FBI and CIA. Like, I don't know if anybody else fucking knows this. And like I said, Donald Trump has pushed these orgs into a corner and he's put shitty leadership over the top of them. Somebody like me, right? Somebody like me is going to get fed up, and there's just going to be a mountain of information released. And it's not, again, we I've been saying, like, it's not the US military. It's not the Democrats. We've spent plenty of time. If you've been watching my content lately, I have been giving Democrats hell. Because again, I think they've got piss poor leadership. I don't think Chuck Schumer is a good leader. I don't think fucking Hakeem Jeffries is a good leader. First of all, Hakeem Jeffries is the breadwinner for AI PAC. He gets the most money from Israel. And so if you think Hakeem Jeffries is going to do fuck all about Gaza and that he's not somehow invested, they don't ever talk about Hakeem Jeffries not being like a stock trader, inside trader, right? And again, this isn't me taking up for Chuck Schumer and saying he should keep his job. I'm just saying I don't think Hakeem Jeffries is the guy. I want AOC, I want Bernie, I want Tim Waltz, I want anyone, Buttigieg. I don't give a fuck. And what I'm starting to think about now that's starting to be like, whoa, 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 we got to back off a little bit. The Democrats need they need to come to Jesus. They need to figure out who the fuck is supposed to lead us, who's the 2028 presidential candidate, and we got to start talking about fucking midterms. If y'all don't remember me, you don't remember me talking in the last couple months about how the Democrats are failing in messaging to get out the names of their candidates for these special elections, the two in Florida, the one in New York, and how it took us fucking forever to find out Gay Vallamont, Joshua Wheel, and I can't remember the person in New York's name. Is it Hildebrand? Is that what their last name is? Anyway, the Democrats like failed to bring those people to light and show the world who are these people, what are their positions. You should be voting for them. And you know what's fucking crazy about this? I'm saying it like I'm not a Democrat, right? Like I'm saying like, hey, y'all's messaging is boo boo, like y'all got to fix that shit. And what do? They start pumping out content about their candidates, showing you their faces and letting them talk for a second. And you're like, holy shit. Like, these people are fucking inept. My brain dead ass that doesn't have any fucking idea how politics work at all. Although I do have a background in graphic design with a focus on marketing and project management. So I do have some kind of inkling like, I don't even know who the fucking candidates are or what they look like. Yeah. Yeah. Because the Republicans are scared. Um, and what's important is about this situation is, as I've said before, Donald Trump's policies, when they're fucking racist and horrible, you're like, yes, that affects people of color. Donald Trump does not like people of color. He's a fucking racist. If you didn't also know that, welcome. Okay? But what you also have to understand is that the overarching strategy of this regime is to eat itself. And that's because Donald Trump is being controlled by Vladimir Putin and Russia. And all the actions that Donald Trump's taken as president are means to destabilize the union, to make it more susceptible, to make it less safe. So understand that's what Donald Trump's done while he's been in office so far. Understand that like Donald Trump, the president of the United States, does not have purse strings. So he can say a whole bunch of shit. He can say shit every day. I've tried to tell people stop listening to the man and standing in front of the curtain. Start paying attention to the person behind the curtain, operating him like a marionette, right? Understand that that person's who we need to be paying attention to, and because everything that Donald Trump's doing is strengthening Russia's position versus the United States. And I want to make sure everybody understands how close the United States and Russia actually are. 55 miles. So understand Alaska and Russia are like 55 miles apart. Very close to us. Um, and it's important to understand when certain things are done. For example, one of the things that is super stupid about this administration is their attack on trans people, right? This is not what my words and my thoughts are not meant to disrespect trans people. It's just facts. That's the smallest minority group. Just dead honest. That's the smallest group of people in an organization, in a country, in a continent. the smallest group of people is trans people. So when you see full-blown legislation aimed at trans people and preventing them from playing sports and whatever else that they're trying to fucking ruin these poor people's lives for, that just tells you how powerful trans people really are. They are making legislation that affects the smallest portion of the population. Yeah, a lot of people didn't know that. There's a reason why Russia is not our ally, and Russia put bounties on American soldiers. Russia paid Afghanistan up to $250,000 per mission to kill Americans, to kill coalition forces in Afghanistan. And who really knows about the true extent of Russian influence uh, outside of the United States? Like who truly knows Russia's influence? And you know what, CC? I was listening to this former chaplain in the Navy talk, and they're a straight white male, okay? And he says the biggest threat to a closed-minded individual is someone whose mind is wide open, that knows exactly who they are, that has fully developed their frontal cortex to the degree that they know they're a woman in a man's body, forced to live as a man, unable to transition because of a job or duty station or whatever. Um, that what they want is they want that control that they ultimately do not have. And when you, for example, decide to transition, you're taking the government out of it. You're taking your family out of it, you're taking your friends out of it, and you're making a decision for yourself. And as a fellow human being with a fully open mind and a fully developed frontal cortex, I support that. I support you demanding to be yourself, regardless of the situation. And if people aren't willing to support you, I am willing to support you. I'm willing to say, I don't care if you're white, black, yellow, orange, gay, straight, I give a fuck. If you decide to make a great change, I'm support that shit. And I think transitioning is a great change. I didn't say it was ill advised. I didn't say I wouldn't do that shit. I honestly have thought about it 1,000 times. Like I'm creating male football players. That's what I do. I'm a fucking football coach. And if I can instill anything on a fucking football player, it's like open your fucking mind, right? Understand that you cannot control anyone. It's not what you're here for. You can just control. Remember, we talk a lot about being an adult and controlling what you can control, right? About you got to make sure you sleep 8 hours a night. You got to make sure you drink water. You got to make sure you eat right. Ultimately, if you're doing all that shit, you might as well exercise. And eventually, you're going to get to a spot where you're starting to plateau and you're no longer seeing gains this year. You're not getting stronger. You're not getting faster anymore. And I'd argue that's because you're trying to do it all. And what you're trying to work towards is splitting your workout. Run in the morning, lift in the evening, or flip it. I don't give a shit. And ultimately, you're gonna have to commit to working on this, working on yourself like 6 days a week. Hey, it's gonna increase your food consumption. It's gonna increase your expenditure on yourself, and I'm for it, right? So if I can sit here as a football coach and talk football-ish and explain to white and white, black, Hispanic cis males largely, and probably 99.9% of the kids I'll ever coach will be straight males. And if I can impart anything on them, right, is that none of that shit has anything to do with you. What other people become, not on you at all. You're not there to do anything but support them in their decision and their life and what they decide to do with it because you're going to do stuff that other people are going to be concerned about what you're doing, right? People are going to wonder, like when I'm a head coach, why are you so obsessed with taking care of your body? Because I want to make sure I'm available for my team. My head football coach works out too because he wants to make sure he's available for the team all the time, right? Like I said, I'm gonna be here every day. Pretty much, I can't imagine a situation in which I'd stop making this show, right? I want to make sure that I'm here, that I'm being supportive, that I'm talking about the things that are actually happening in the world, right? Like I noticed for the record, we lost a lot of viewers when I was talking about trans issues. And I just want to make sure that you're reminded over and over and over again. Uh, First they came for the communists, and I didn't speak up because I'm not a communist. And then they came for the socialists, and I didn't speak up because I'm not a socialist. They came for the trade unionists, I didn't speak up because I'm not a trade unionist. They came for the fucking Jews, and I didn't stand up because I'm not a Jew. And when they came for me, there was no one left to speak for me. That's what you're doing. When you turn your head to hard issues that are hard conversations to have, when you leave the room because someone is speaking about issues that don't directly impact me at all and probably don't directly impact you at all. But if we don't stand up, one of the things that I learned my first year coaching high school football, I learned from my head coach. It says everything about you, how you treat people who can do you no good. And one of the things that I found that my head coach was willing to do was discard whole people. And that's our problem here is that the moment we snatch power, we immediately do the kinds of things that were done to us in the name of whatever the fuck they were talking about back then. Team building, probably. Hey, Elena. But yeah, China's laughing at us. So here's your little Bloomberg. Okay. And in terms of where we are, because we talk about this calendar every day, okay? We're in the midst of, we're about 15 days into a Target blackout, a Target boycott. So for those of you that are regular shoppers at Target, none of that shit. You got about 25 days left. Okay? So I'm saying you got through about the first 2 weeks of April. Okay? Let's see here. Nothing really on the calendar here. On March 20th is a day without Visa. So hey, if you have a Visa card and you're participating in the resistance, uh, March 20th, don't use your Visa. Okay. Now, next Friday, so this is the end of this week, starts a Nestle boycott. Now, it's going to be particularly difficult for people in my neck of the woods because of the tainted water supply. Okay. For the record, they're supposed to resolve this for us here in Lawrence by Tuesday. and understand it was just a water main break, which is completely normal. That shit happens. And like I said, my entire anger arises from the knowledge that a tainted water supply primarily affects children and the elderly. And who is least likely to know that there's a tainted water supply, and should this information just be publicly available? And I think we can all agree yes. I think that would beyond a shadow of a doubt information, health information that is vital to the public, that is mainly going to affect non-readers, young kids, the elderly, should just be blasted top of the everywhere. Should be just, I shouldn't be having to pay money to see that information on a major news site, especially when the target isn't a customer. A child is not buying a newspaper. That's not the target, right? Even the super elderly are not the target of the news. That said, we also want to make sure, in addition to show up to protest, okay? So, in addition to show up to protest, there are things you can do personally that are having a direct impact. And as we've been saying, get off of Facebook, Threads, IG. Most importantly, delete Facebook Messenger from your device. We don't talk about it often enough, but one of the primary reasons to get rid of Facebook Messenger is because Messenger has access to your location, and they will give that to ICE. Facebook Messenger has access to your microphone and your camera, and you don't have to have the app open. And also, Facebook Messenger reads your messages and uses the information in your Facebook messages to impact the algorithm on all of the other Meta applications. So, have you ever gotten a really creepy fucking feeling when you're having a conversation with somebody and then you go scroll on fucking Facebook and all of a sudden you're just being fucking inundated by whatever you were just talking about in a private conversation, and you're like, wow, that's really fucking weird? That's because Facebook Messenger is like the most invasive application on your phone. Get that shit off your phone. Get rid of WhatsApp, get rid of Twitter, get rid of Amazon. Okay? We just got through a week-long Amazon boycott. So like I said, got that, take a little week off. The next thing up is the Nestle boycott. That's going to be difficult because Nestle produces water, right? And if there is ever a company that should just straight up not exist, it's the one selling water, right? I think we can all agree. I don't know if you guys saw that, where Anonymous has started attacking. Look at this protest in LA, by the way. I just went to Twitter to see if I could pick anything up. Oh, you know what? You know what I saw that we didn't talk about? We got to talk about like good news when it happens. Shit that should have never happened. Remember how Donald Trump fired all those people that are park rangers and shit? They were fired illegally and they're allowed to be rehired. Parks will be staffed. Um, should have never happened. Absolutely shouldn't. Good morning, Corey. Should not be a conversation that I'm having, but am having to say, hey, did see a judge that all those firings were uncouth and shit. Okay. In New York City, protesters had a die-in against Trump, Elon Musk, and Doge. That's awesome. Chuck Schumer had children arrested. Oh shit. You know shit's about to go off the rails. Dropkick Murphys talking about see, I'm also hearing uh AOC is gonna primary Chuck Schumer. It's a great question, Corey. He says, "Where is the crime against humanity? Is these deportations in the Act of 1970 or whatever he was trying to force yesterday?" He goes so quiet still. Yeah. So, Corey, great question. So, okay, first of all, the the people that were deported to Guantanamo were returned. So it's like they got to undo that shit, right? And then he, he's only deported a couple hundred people, and most of them have been like returned, or were found, or were allowed back, or it's just not gone very well for him. I'm just saying. He promised 14 million, and it's like, has he even gotten 1400? But again, I want to point out the International Criminal Court, if you go to their website and you look at the kind of crimes they prosecute crimes against humanity, including genocide. And Mark Root, who is being praised as the Trump whisperer, who's the head of fucking he's the UN general, said come visit The Hague this summer in June. And I know that there's people that are like nothing's fucking happening and he just gets to do whatever the fuck he wants, and it's just like, okay, dog. Okay, dog. How many US presidents have been invited to The Hague? I want you to think about that. How many? Right, Corey, I'm with you. Right? The big problem that I have, that I see with like law enforcement and the Department of Justice, is they're so disrespectful towards law enforcement. They're defunding their unions. This administration took money away from the NYPD, and Eric Adams, the mayor, like former police chief, like they're just taking it. They literally got money taken from them and went and stood and guarded fucking Teslas. And for the record, Donald Trump and Elon Musk are notorious for treating people that work for them poorly. And I'll never figure out how people work for people that treat people like that. Yeah. How the fuck you let somebody treat you like that? You know what I mean? Oh, this is just how it is. You just have to be a pawn of the establishment. What? And I know some of those that work forces are the same that burn crosses. I know. I know. I'm with you. It's not there's a reason Justice's waiting room is aptly fucking named. You know, we've been in here more than 40 days and 40 nights. Yeah, so Donald Trump did get hit in the face with a microphone, with a foam microphone, and he made a big deal out of it. Yep. And again, I want to make sure that I point out that it's not left versus right, it's rich versus poor. And until we're willing to admit that right now, the reason things aren't going our way is because we allowed them to divide us. We've allowed them to divide us. Oh man, if only I were as sensitive as Donald Trump. The protest today at the Heritage Foundation, noon. Yeah, all the while up and down, not left versus right. No. What's been co-opted as like right-wing policy is just extremism, and it has been forever. It. I like to say that like I've been around the world and I like I don't know a Democrat or Republican. I don't know about anybody that's like hardcore R or D. I know plenty of people that have voted like Republican and Democrat, but that's just a rich boys club. We'll never be a part of that. You know how fucking tone deaf you have to be for Chuck Schumer to say shutting down the government gives Donald Trump more awesome power than just signing this resolution and giving it to him? You know how fucking out of touch you have to be? Yep. And look at these, look at the president or look at the vice president of the United States and look at Elon Musk using their children as shields. That's how conscious they are what they've done. Is they know they've put a target on their back. They've made themselves they've made themselves into a target. And in order to keep themselves sane, which again, iffy, iffy at best, in order to keep themselves sane, they got to parade their kids around with them everywhere they go and use them as a shield. What, using your own child as a shield? Yeah, that's understandable. Hey, look at this shit. Authoritarian crackdown strips 42,000 Kuwaitis of nationality in defiance of international law. Amir Mishal Al Ahmad Al Jabbar Al Sabah. Yeah, so I don't know if I talked about this, but I want to talk about this. So at that protest that I was at, when we actually started marching, we were marching opposite the traffic on a major thoroughfare downtown Indianapolis, Meridian. Okay, and uh, there was a it's a two-lane one way coming at us, and the far lane on the other side of the road from us was backed up. And you know how it is. Somebody at the end of the line is always an asshole, and they get out and go around everybody. Well, it was a Tesla Cybertruck, and we were in the other lane because we're marching and there's hundreds of people. So we were kind of in the where people park along Meridian, which is again outside of the lane of travel. And this semi came, not semi, this Cybertruck came within a couple feet of a Cybertruck, and this guy stepped off the curb. And I'm telling you, when he reached out and flipped that Cybertruck driver the bird, I thought he was gonna hit his windshield with his hand. That's how close he was when he stuck his finger out there. And immediately I started roasting the driver of the Cybertruck, and I was just like, imagine spending $150,000 to get flipped off everywhere you go. And somebody was like, I'm surprised it costs that much. And I said, well, if you heard how it accelerated and you check out its paint job, it's easy to see that the motor and the paint are aftermarket. There's no matte black Cybertruck. You have to pay for that paint. That's an expensive ass paint job. And then also, based on its rate of acceleration, that pack does not come with that base Cybertruck. That thing, it was hauling balls. Imagine, and so she's like, "Oh, that makes sense." And I was like, "Yeah, because a used base model Cybertruck is 87 to 98,000. Okay, so and keep in mind, I grew up around cars. I sold fucking cars. Grew up around IRP. I've been around high powered electric vehicles. I'm telling you, you don't just go in, drop 100 grand, and get a matte black Cybertruck with a power pack on it that has it fucking zooming unnaturally. It was even unnaturally loud, which again does not track with like the standard Cybertruck. Their electric vehicles supposed to be like quiet. Um, but I started just because that's what came out of my body was like imagine spending $150,000 and being enemies with everyone as soon as you arrive. And I was like, you could have bought 5 cars, all of them cooler than the Cybertruck, and no one would know who you are. You could drive a different car every day of the week, and again, never get flipped off in a million years. And instead, drives like a dick, looks like a dick, must be a dickhead, gets treated like a dickhead everywhere he goes. And I was just like, imagine thinking in 2025, I'm not getting enough attention. I need infinitely more negative attention. Clearly, That is what I need in my life. And no, Corey, I have not seen a MAGA edition Tesla. That's fucking stupid. And it is awfully sad. Sad to see Donald Trump let Elon Musk park Teslas on the White House lawn like it's a goddamn used car sale. Um, to help keep Elon's car company from failing because Tesla's about to brick out. And here's the thing I've learned about this. Remember, not Donald Trump, Elon Musk used Tesla shares to buy Twitter. And so with Tesla crashing, it could cost Elon Musk Twitter. And again, there's a silver lining in all of this. It's that it doesn't matter if you decide to support Elon Musk and Tesla or not, they're already lost. Already lost. They've lost half of the value of Tesla since the election. It's over. It's a matter of time. They're on life. They're on. I would say they're on life alert. But yeah, S&M. Remember that it's paid. He paid Kim Kardashian to pose on them. Uh-huh. Money talks, man. Yeah, I want you all to be very careful. Mind the storms that are upon us, especially in the south part of the United States. There was life support. That's what it was. I was like, life alert? What? That's the I've fallen and I can't get up. Yeah, I meant life support. I don't know why I said life alert. But yeah, I wanted to point out like how the public, how you feel about Tesla, how you feel about like people would agree. I'm glad you're safe. People agree. People are not pro Tesla overwhelmingly, and they're not willing to bet on Tesla. I've become a big fan of Rivian. They make electric cars. Well, that was CC. That's one of the reasons that I'm spending a good amount of time talking about weather today and being empathetic to everyone caught up in these storms. Is because there's nothing, no one's helping, no one's coming to help. No, there's no FEMA, there's no NOAA for the early warning system. Um, Okay. Can you hear me now? Use a different headset. That was wild. It just straight up went out. Okay. It'd be a wild show with just straight up no volume whatsoever. Right? Should be. Should be able to hear me just fine. Yeah. I changed headsets. I gotta back up. I have a professional microphone, but long ago I realized like I just need a better computer, and I'm just gonna get a better computer. I need a computer with multiple DP and HDMI outs. I need more USB and like upgraded USB. Or you could put on captions. So yeah, a long time ago I realized I just need. Remember how we talk frequently about leopards eating face? Here's a USA Today story about he voted for Trump and now his wife is sitting in an ICE detention center. Bum, 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 ah. And also, um, there, in my eyes, I think the Democratic Party is getting restless, and they're starting to hear the voices of the people that are unhappy. And again, I want you all to know the Democratic Party is not coming to save you. They're not absolutely not going to develop a platform. I'm just telling you how it is. The US healthcare system is failing, and neither of the parties, the Democratic or Republican parties, have a plan to fix it. Want to make sure we say that again. The American healthcare system is failing, and neither party has a plan to fix it. One party would literally just remove all healthcare from everyone, every man for himself. The other party would just be like, it is what it is, and just we just get more of the same. So there's a reason that I'm positive the path forward involves the creation of the American Socialist Party. And again, I want to make sure anyone that'll listen, I'm not for developing a new political party so that I can run for office. This is not the purpose. Because there's too many people out there that are self-serving. They would only do something like this if it benefits them directly. I will say, in hindsight, makes me look like a god. However, it's not for me. I'm operating under the premise. I'm operating under the premise of great are the men who plant trees who shall never sit in their shade. That's my thought process with developing the American Socialist Party. The fucking CIA exists to kill socialists. You understand? But if I'm able to register a socialist party as an American political party, build that party up, if there's enough of us, there's no way they're just killing all of us. And ultimately, understand what the definition of a socialist is so that you can put your weight behind that movement fully and know that, hey, look, I did some research. I did some fucking research.
First of all, many of the countries in the world have socialist parties that are winning elections. There are democratic socialists in the United States who, in many ways, call themselves socialists with the exception of their belief in both democracy, the rule of law, and ultimately in capitalism, which I don't fucking believe in that shit at all. That shit is not working. That shit is broken. Part of the reason the healthcare system is broken is because of that. But remember at the end of the day that a socialist is any, A-N-Y, egalitarian, pro-equality, social, economic, or political theory hinging on the seizure of the means of production. Unionism, in this case, that would make me a syndicalist socialist. I'm pro-union. In fact, I'm so pro-union that I think union leaders make great political leaders. Because a union leader's job is to get better pay and benefits for its union members. What do you think an elected leader should be real good at? Good to go? And that makes sense, at least. And when I'm pro equality, I'm pro the elimination of this two-tier justice system that appears to target mostly people that don't look like me and poor people who look like I'm poor, right? So for me, it's not a difficult leap. In fact, I'm not attached mostly to ideas at all. I'm not religious. So I'm not religious. That makes it not very difficult for me to take a look at what the Democratic Party's mission is, what the Republican Party is doing right now, and say the Republican Party is scared. They're running and hiding. They're not hosting town halls in their own jurisdictions. And it's the Democrats right now that are going to go to those places. Your AOC, your Bernie, your Tim Walz are going to go to those majority Republican places and they're going to basically get to campaign for free. And again, one of the things that I'll hold as most bizarre about this entire fucking situation is the fact that somewhere out there are all of these investigations and reports stemming from Executive Order 13848. Where the fuck are those things? Where are the punishments coming from the Department of Justice as it refers to those investigations? Where's that information? Because again, I want to point out lots of what Donald Trump and this administration have tried to do has failed. Burp. So I know that it's real sad, and you're like, oh fuck, they're fucking destroying America as we know it. But they suck at it. They're fucking terrible at their jobs. Who in their fucking right mind becomes the president of the United States? And you're a Republican, and you have a right-leaning Congress, or Senate and House, and a SCOTUS. He could pass any law, anything that he wants. He could literally 32 days in every month, bitches. He can make that a law. How many bills? How many bills has Donald Trump co-authored? Fucking none. Nah, cat. Somebody out there is getting tired of this shit. Somebody out there that worked on these investigations is at the point in their life where they're like, I can't just do nothing. And there's a lot of places to go with that information. So that's what I think is actually part of the problem. Where do you go? What do you do? And they're focusing on paper straws and shit. I mean, think about Donald Trump's got bills trying to delegitimize the ICC. Chip Roy, Texas, right? And then he made his own executive order trying to delegitimize the ICC. Again, does it not all seem to go together? Where Mark Root tells Donald Trump you ought to visit The Hague in the summer. We've been sitting here talking about crimes against humanity. Donald Trump, since he's been in office, is trying to delegitimize the ICC. What do y'all think is going to happen? Why would Donald Trump try to delegitimize the ICC? Why would Mark Root tell him to visit The Hague? Do they, again, I'm going to keep asking, do they normally invite sitting presidents to visit The Hague? Is that normal? Just like S&M says, it's just a matter of time. And I know it sucks. It sucks waking up every day and some horrible fuck shit is going on and there's not a goddamn thing you can do about it. I fucking agree. It's the worst goddamn timeline. It's like 2012 is happening, the movie. The movie 2012 is happening and you can scream but nobody can hear you. It feels like I'm trapped in 2012, the movie. And so like shit is fucked and you want to like yell and you can scream but nobody can hear you. I mean, that's part of the reason I developed a podcast and that I create content. This is nothing I ever planned to do. I don't storyboard. I'm not this. I don't try to make money off this. This isn't a thing that I see and I'm like, yeah, I should try to profit off that. There has been times when I've really needed the money, I need the help, and people have helped, and I'm grateful for that, right? And I'm grateful for the people that I have that are part of this. But like I said, exactly, if you've ever watched 2012, it feels like I'm trapped in it. I know what's gonna happen. Shit is fucked. And when you scream, people they just look at you. It's like, is something wrong with you? Like, yo, motherfuckers, do you not see this shit? Like, what the fuck? And by the way, here on Clapper, I got a couple people saying nobody's listening to your propaganda, and somebody called me a bum because I said that I'm a socialist, which is hilarious. Screaming into the void. Oh yeah. One one of my favorite bands is Tool / A Perfect Circle. And I think a lot of you will really appreciate this song. Again, one of the things that Gad Sad, I don't know if many of you are Gad Sad fans, but Gad Sad, he talked about how part of the problem with men in general is that if something is out of their control, their first thought is violence. Oh, I'm not getting what I want. I'm not getting what I want, so I want to make other people's lives worse. And the only way I know how to solve problems is with violence. I was thinking about this the other day, and we'll say this before we play our little. Well, no, we got about 5-6 minutes left. So I was thinking about, I've even today we talked about Niemöller's quote, the first they came for the communists, and I didn't say anything because I'm not a communist. And you know what I realized? Because it's kind of in order. why the Nazi regime targeted communists first. They targeted communists first because the commies are violent, are prone to violence. And if you can overtake the commies, the communists, which again, communism, far right, fascism, authoritarian dictatorships, that's communism. Why do you think the Nazi regime went after communists first? Because they're prone to violence. And if you can overcome them, you add violence to your regime. Because now those people bent on violence are now part of your regime, and they're going to help shape its ideology. And then what are the communists going to want to eliminate when they've become Nazis? Socialists, the people on the opposite end of the political spectrum that are about empowering people, right? And about equality and being pro-union and wanting people to have good health care and education and housing, and they're not being homeless people dying on the street and shit, right? But what you get taught is that what you get taught, at least what I got taught when I was a kid, is somebody's got to flip burgers and somebody's got to be homeless. In order for you to have what you have, somebody's got to flip them burgers that you eat. Somebody's got to be homeless. And I vehemently fucking disagree with that shit. One of the things that I want to eliminate are homeless veterans. Because again, only a veteran, only somebody who volunteered to serve their country, that put themselves around people from all over the world and country, has the level of exposure to other people and cultures and countries, right? You can't get that any other way. There's no other way to do it unless you're rich. To understand what socialism could do, what it could do for us. Imagine going to work and every single person that you go to work with, it has all of their basic needs met. Imagine if imagine that imagine if imagine if the quality of healthcare available did not cost you coworkers. I've had coworkers, because of the healthcare system, straight up fucking die in their chair at work, grinding so they can afford their healthcare that's letting them down and keeping them fucking sick. And you ask, you know who you really ask? Black women specifically will tell you how much different their healthcare treatment is. So imagine if everyone that you went to work with and interacted with had all their needs met. Understand that there are, from what I understand, there are 10 times as many empty homes as there are homeless people. So it's not because there's not room for them. And think about one of the things that makes me laugh about people are anti-socialist. So if you're anti-socialist, then you understand that one of the foundational pieces of socialism is the desire for universal housing. Okay? I just want to point out to everyone that Arnold Schwarzenegger, a Republican and former elected official, built like hundreds of tiny homes and gave them to homeless veterans. That's like the most socialist shit I've ever heard in my fucking life. And I've worked and partied and lived downtown Indianapolis, like in a city. Slept next door to skyscrapers and shit. Ran into homeless people on my route, on my way to work, on my way to do stuff for fun. And you know how they tell you they're crazy, disease ridden, these are people you don't want? Never met that. Never actually met that crazy fucking. I never met Linus from Charlie Brown. I never met him. Most of the homeless people I've ever met worked a full time job. Slept on a refrigerator box because they couldn't afford it anymore. So when you wonder like why I get on here every day and say like homelessness is completely unnecessary. I tell you, they used to build houses for veterans. In stage 4 with good insurance, they barely cover any treatments. There's a reason that I want everyone to have universal health care. There's a reason that I want people to have the quality of care that I have. Uh, my Jesus cat. Hey, as I've said, think about this. Donald Trump talked about tariffs. His whole run up to president. My brother owns a security. My brother owns a construction company. They build stuff. And I tried to talk to them before the election and say, hey, lumber and steel prices are about to shoot up because of Donald Trump's tariffs. And my brother, who's a multi fucking millionaire, doesn't have a college degree, said, nah, that ain't going to affect us. Let me tell you that within a month of Donald Trump being elected, my brother, who I swear to God on my mother would never fucking employ me in a million years, was like, I need you to work for me. Our costs went up. Didn't you vote for this shit? Good luck. I'm with you, Zeke. What if we removed the greens, stop mowing the fairways, and turn golf courses into tiny home complexes? Can you think about this? Can you imagine living living on top of the hole and out your doors are a sand pit, right, where your little kids can go play and shit. And there's an old putting green that if you mow it close enough, you could practice your little putting on. I mean, it'd be the closest to owning land, usable land. Exactly. I straight up told my brother at a basketball game, you cannot afford me. And he was like, we're losing millions of dollars. Okay. And? Yep. And my mom, retirement age, has her mother living with her who's 94 and on her deathbed, is reliant on being able to eventually not work on Social Security, is going to have to be on Medicaid, is going to need Medicare, right? Voted for this regime, is going to lose all that shit and is going to have to work until she dies. That's my own mother, and I warned her. I warned her. And so remember when all of this shit does happen. Remember that it hasn't happened yet. I would be way more pissed. I would be way more pissed. I'd be on here every day screaming on the top of my lungs, motherfuckers are dying by the minute. What the fuck are you doing about it? Okay? So there haven't been cuts to Social Security, haven't been cuts to Medicaid, Medicare. Mm-mm. But my mom works at a fucking nursing home / hospital. So what do you think happens to her job when the healthcare system collapses? When Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security get cut and the people that live where she works can no longer afford it. I'll tell you what happens. Let me tell you a little story and then we'll get out of here. We've been here over 90 minutes. I've never told this story to anyone. When I was a senior in high school, I went on a mission trip to the hills of Virginia. Okay. And our job was to use our manpower to rip out the guts of an old hospital that had closed within 2 years of us being at this small hospital in the foothills of Virginia. And we tore the inside of that shit up. From floor to ceiling, did everything but tear the floor out. Until about the 4th day when we were in the basement in the morgue and we found a body. And then they called the police and then they roped off the hospital and then we saw the media and then we talked to locals and we found out that when that hospital closed, there were still patients inside. And so, have you ever wondered how the fuck was there a remains of a dead body in the morgue of this fucking hospital? Because they literally just abandoned that hospital. This was in 2000, 2001. You can Google it. So imagine from little old Indianapolis, Indiana, going to the foothills of Virginia on a mission trip. And our job was to gut this 5 floor hospital. Rip all the walls out. Whatever. We had masks on and shit I've never used before. I'd never used, like a pickaxe. I'd never used the pickaxe before. And you wonder a couple days into this, because it's taxing as fuck, and I wasn't built for hard fucking labor. What are we doing? When I say I wasn't built for that, it's just like incredibly taxing on your body. What the fuck are we doing with a bunch of kids cleaning out this fucking hospital? Why are we here? They literally had to take the rest of the week off, take us and let us go do whatever the fuck we could figure out to do. Went to Washington, D.C., went whitewater rafting. They did everything they could possibly do to make us fucking forget. That we found a body and the police came and marked it off and the media came and the locals came out and told us. You could hear people screaming. So you ask, like, what the fuck happens? What happens when the healthcare systems fail? When Social Security gets withdrawn? When there's no Medicare, Medicaid? My heart's in my fucking throat. I know exactly what the fuck happens. They leave your fucking Meemaw sit there till she dies. That's what the fuck happens. Somebody comes along and burns the bodies. Ask me how we found that out. Because they had Nazi-style crematorium in the basement of that fucking hospital that had been used. I was 18 years old. I was 18. I was in high school. People wonder why I left my hometown to never return. The cat said, my aunt passed during COVID. And is that Louisiana or Los Angeles? Because cat, dead ass, I would be shocked if it was Los Angeles, not shocked if it was Louisiana. And I mean no disrespect. I've just been in fucking Louisiana. They don't give a fuck. Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, those are the three states that worry me a great deal. The fucking Dakotas I'm worried about, like the northwest part of the country. But fucking Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana scare the fuck out of me. But yeah. People have always said I overreact to shit and have told me to calm down, and that's not what's going to happen. And I'm just, I'm too cognizant of how profit affects people, about how pay affects people, about how what happens when the money's gone. And this building only exists because it keeps people alive. And what happens when the money's gone? You think they're going to take a great deal of care and move everyone out? You think that if that building becomes unserviceable, they just move people? They just pack up all your stuff for you and they'll just take it wherever you need to go? And that there's always another place for you to go? Man, here's what I know. The only people I know that get taken care of all the way until they die are veterans. Everyone else that I've met, as you age, the quality of care decreases. Call it the American dream. So why do you think, as like a veteran, I'm like, everybody deserves at least the level of care that I expect when I go to get health care as a baseline? Right? It's not going to cost me anything. It's there when I need it. Hopefully I don't ever need it. But when I do, I know that I'll get quality care. Anyway, let's play Eat the Rich and get the fuck out of here, huh? Have a good rest of your day. So understand, um, as I've said before, the CIA used to kill socialists. So when people ask, like, why aren't you quickly establishing the American Socialist Party and getting all up and running? And it's like, hey, let's create a few social media profiles and see if it costs me my freedom, right? Before we go begging for money and shit. Start try to fundraise as a political party. My thoughts on that are and will always be, if we can have a fascist Republican Party that is trying to install an authoritarian dictator, we can have a socialist party. Good to go. If we can have a violent regime hell bent on war, we can have a non-violent regime hell bent on peace. Good to go. And that's really how I fucking see it. Is if we can have violent extremists on the right in power, we can build a workers' party. We can build a socialist party, a syndicalist socialist party, as many countries in the world have done. France, Italy, Germany all have workers' parties, socialist parties that are in power, that win elections, that whose policies are popular. Progressive policies are popular here too. So do not be dissuaded. Do not be discouraged. I'm not taking my time because I'm a fucking procrastinator, even though I'm a fucking procrastinator. I'm taking my time so I don't become a target. I'm not quite prepared for that yet. Good to go? And if I move too fast, do too much too fast, I become a fucking soft target. I'm an easy target. The cops already came to my house. The sheriff came to my house. Under the guise of other shit, but I wasn't born yesterday. If you think they're there to serve and protect, you're fucking crazy.